together, if we stand together as one, then the only hand raising that I hope to do is on January 20th, 2017, to raise my right hand with my left hand on the Bible and pledge to each of you to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
I think it's time to unify. We have something special going in the Republican Party, and unfortunately, the people in the party, they call them the elites, or they call them whatever they call them, but those are the people that don't respect it yet. We have millions and millions of people, I discussed it before, we have millions and millions of people coming up and voting. I can get along with people. Look, the bottom line is we have something going that's so good. We should grab each other and we should unify the party, and nobody's going to beat us, okay?
All right, so with 1,030 delegates awarded so far, here is the current tally. Donald Trump, 458 delegates, Ted Cruz, 359 delegates, and Marco Rubio stays at 151 delegates. So fewer than 100 delegates separate Trump from Cruz. It is a de facto two-man race. Question is, when does de facto become official? Joining me now from Miami Beach, Florida, political consultant, lobbyist, and author of the book Jeb and the Bush Crime Family, The Inside Story of an American Dynasty, Roger Stone. Roger, I think an excellent night for Donald Trump, but I'm going to say something that might be a little bit controversial. You might disagree with me. I think it was a better night for Ted Cruz because he has hung in there. And we are just waiting for the eventual demise of John Kasich and Marco Rubio. And when that happens, it's going to be a close mano-on-mano race.
No, there's no question. And of course, the real outsider on that race is Donald Trump. You see, when Neil Bush, the brother of George W. Bush, the son of President George H.W. Bush, who defrauded U.S. taxpayers out of $1.5 billion, comes out as a member of Ted Cruz's finance committee in a public fanfare. You can't make this stuff up. Cruz is now the establishment candidate. As much as the establishment doesn't like him, they fear Donald Trump more. And since Rubio has fallen by, just can't get any traction, Mitt Romney anxiously waiting in the wings for a compromise, Cruz is the last guy left standing. So I don't think he can beat Donald Trump one-on-one. Because under closer examination, Ted is deeply tied to the Bush failed policies of the past. I think Trump won that debate.
So you think by this, I think what some would call a loose association with the Bush family, that Ted Cruz is now the de facto establishment candidate when he has railed against the establishment his entire career in the United States Senate?
Yeah, because I think it misunderstands his career before that. He's the chief issue advisor for George W. Bush, a man who sees him from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night every year for 2 years. His wife is the Deputy Assistant Secretary, Deputy Assistant National Security Director under Condoleezza Rice. And then she goes over to the U.S. Trade Representative, Robert Zoellick, who has deep ties to Goldman Sachs. She then leaves there to go to Goldman Sachs. These people are insiders.
All right,
and they have a Bushite birthright.
All right, be that as it may, if we look at Michigan, for example, interesting situation there. Ted Cruz overachieved, I guess some people would call it that, when he beat Kasich. It's a very, very close number two, but indeed, Ted Cruz takes second and Kasich falls to third. Donald Trump right in there around 36%. But that seems to be his essential threshold from coast to coast. Now, Donald has gotten more than 36%, but in each of these races that we saw last night when Ted Cruz lost, he was within 10 points of Donald Trump's victory. And so when you subtract Kasich and Rubio, does that not even out this race or maybe even give the advantage to Ted Cruz?
Well, I think it's too early to say. We have to see the results on March 15th. But Cruz, I give the devil his due. He's got great conservative rhetoric. I say that it differs with his birthright and his past, and that's why I call him Tricky Ted. I also think the sharp-elbowed campaign tactics are catching up with him, planting stories about Ben Carson, robocalls accusing Donald Trump of being for the gay and lesbian agenda in South Carolina, and other kind of bare knuckle. That's all catching up with him. It's kind of so. Yes, he has hung in there. I give you credit for that. Rubio has been unable to break through. His last chance is his home state. I don't think he'll drop before that. He's got to make a last stand. Remember that many of these votes are already banked through early voting and absentee in Florida. And there's a lot of Bush votes in there that would ultimately probably then go on to Marco. That's a real disadvantage for him. He's underperformed every place else. There's reports of voting irregularities in Texas, in Oklahoma, in Kansas, and now in Hawaii, surrounding the most recent results that are noteworthy, possible voter fraud, which would be to the detriment of Donald Trump. So, but yes, I think we go to the next round.
Okay, so speaking of Marco Rubio, a couple weeks ago we had you on the program and you were talking about this conspiracy, I don't know what else to call it, within the establishment Republican Party to deny Donald Trump the nomination by somehow wedging Marco Rubio in through a brokered convention. Now we have word of a meeting off of Georgia, Small Island, small jets flying in, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, you had Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, and you had Karl Rove, among others, all allegedly plotting to stop Donald Trump. Now, my question is, if they want to stop Donald Trump, why don't they just back one of the other candidates who are still in the race?
Well, because that's not how the establishment works. The establishment has several horses in the barn. They could have lived with Marco, but Marco underperformed. They could live with Romney. Romney'd be okay with them. They all supported him as the nominee, and they have cordial relationships. The only guy, and John Kasich, could probably be acceptable to most of them. They have to work together to block Trump. If any one of them were to drop out of the race, it reduces the probability that Trump can't reach the magic number. Ironically, because of super PACs, candidates who lose races can stay in the race, draining votes from others and changing the outcome.
Okay, but Roger, so what is the end game here? Is it a brokered convention? Donald Trump falls a couple hundred votes or delegates short of winning it? Would it be wedging Marco Rubio in there somehow?
No, I think Marco Rubio is now done as a viable dark horse candidate. Romney benefits here. Marco got the good fight and lost. Romney's still fresh and wearing new makeup and ready to go at the convention if the boss's call. But the key is to keep Trump short. Now, until you see California and New Jersey, you still have a third of the delegates to be chosen. If Trump runs through that, then you're absolutely right. The brokered convention thing disappears like a puff of smoke. But the establishment boys, Rove, the Rubio campaign, even now the Cruz campaign admitting that this could go to the smoke-filled back rooms of Cleveland in a second ballot under certain dynamics. If Trump runs the table, that won't happen.
If this nefarious plan is hatched and they deny Donald Trump the nomination, I think it's going to absolutely split and destroy in the long run the Republican Party. Roger, thank you. Coming up next, what's next for Kasich and Rubio? Also ahead, cowering to the cutthroats in Iran.